Hey Scott, this music isn't copyrighted, is it?
No, I've played this many times. It's copyrighted by NASA.
Do you have a blanket NASA waiver type of thing,
No,
Scott?
these videos are produced for sharing. They're freely downloadable,
Perfect.
that kind of thing.
Nice.
So our tax dollars hard at work.
You bet.
You know.
That's good use.
Yeah, great use for tax dollars.
Yeah.
More visualizations, please.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
God, if only you could see this, flying like this over the nebula,
I bet you in the future, with polarization and parallax and stuff like that, they might be able to kind of make that in an AR, VR view. I can imagine that in the future.
Yeah, where you walk in a room and you're in it.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually, you remember, what's the name of that movie? Anyhow, where they could actually do three-dimensional rendering. I forgot. But anyhow, but you're still going to be limited because of our location. But you should be able to still, remaster and recreate a three-dimensional walkable.
Oh yeah, they did.
Object.
Michael Jackson concert. Where with Michael Jackson dancing on the stage and stuff, and it's it's just a matter of time. You're gonna have
Yes.
It'll be like some sort of sound visual system that you'll just set up in a room and paint the walls a certain color or something like that, and
Yeah, we were just looking at Space Odyssey 2001. We were talking about that earlier, and
yeah,
some of the technologies that they were using, and of course they were anticipating it would happen much sooner. But on the other hand, what we've done since then is much more advanced. And then you think about, like you say, considering the time, it's only 2020 now. Imagine in another 20 years what we can do. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. It's all coming to a living room near you. Holodeck.
All right. Holodeck, exactly. Yes.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts here, and I'm with Kent Martz and Cameron Gillis, and you are on the, I think, 12th episode of Camstronomy, and we are, we had a great global star party last night, but Cameron's been taking us on this, every time he does one of these things, to me, I think of it like, I don't know, embarking on the Pacific Crest Trail or something, except we're doing it through the constellations. And so that it's amazing. And, Cameron's not only great at guiding us through this stuff, but, he's done a very good job on interpretation, and rendering his own astrophotographs that mimic what someone would see visually through a telescope. And I think that's really important. There were a number of years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, and I'm trying to remember who authored it, but there were a couple of books out there where photographs or drawings of celestial objects were meant to render what you would see through like an 8-inch telescope. And Cameron's kind of doing that photographically, but he's blending technology and through this kind of harmonious journey through the constellations and indeed across the universe. So I think it's really cool. Before we get started, I'm going to recognize some people that are watching the program. We kind of ended, our program last night, Global Star Party. It was, I don't know, midnight, maybe 12:30 in the morning Central Time. Jeff Wise was on, and still commenting on Cameron's stuff. So I don't think Cameron actually went to bed. I think he just keeps going.
You can see my hair is all over.
That's right. Let's see. And so I know this afternoon, I think the first one to log in was Mike Wiesner, and he says, hello from clear southern Arizona. Had a great time at the park last night. He had to duck out early from the Global Star Party, photographing the Milky Way and teaching a local professional photographer how to photograph it. He was really excited with what he was seeing and photographing from our dark sky site. We arrived before sunset and didn't leave until 1:30 this morning. I'm tired. You don't have to do anything right now, Mike. Just watch. Okay, so that's cool. We also have Book Davies on with us. Chris Larson, Beatrice Hines is with us. She was on with us last night. In fact, I think almost everybody here was on last night. Jeff Wise is here. Deepti Viram is on with us. Let's see, and who else? Andrew Corkill and Harold Locke so far. So welcome this afternoon. And before we move on, Kent Martz wants to just give us a little bit of update on Explore Alliance.
So, I wanted to talk about the Explore Alliance. It's a great program, tons of benefits. You get your money back in the form of a gift card. So it's more or less
why the
paid, right? So the Legacy membership has access to information and the newsletter, the Skies Up magazine, things like that. But the paid membership gives you extended care on your Explore Scientific products. It gives you access to sales and contests and sneak peeks and things like that. And we probably will have a sneak peek item next week or the week after, maybe two that are coming in. So we'll begin to talk about that a little bit. Something related to the PMC-8 system.
Nice.
That's going to be pretty cool for sure. I know we're going to talk about, and don't want to mention the other one yet, but it will help out the users. They won't have to be searching for parts and pieces anymore. It'll make it much easier for them to connect things together.
Cool.
And so basically, you buy the membership for $99.99, and then we send you back a gift card for $100. So you make
money. You make 1 penny more,
and you still get to spend that $100 on something you were going to buy anyway from us.
Probably.
So, probably. That's the whole point. Is people are going to buy more gear, but even if they don't buy any gear, that is a tremendous benefit, having access to the extended care on products that are no longer under warranty or for whatever reason.
Right.
So they get that extended care that gives them all sorts of benefits as well. Easy to join. You go to our website and find Explore Alliance and go to memberships. Real straightforward, real easy. Or if you don't want to do that, email Annie or email Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com. And Scott, I know you're going to put that up for everybody.
Yep.
And Annie will take care of you. Annie's been off for the last few days, and she's off again today. Hopefully she'll be here tomorrow, and we'll be back in the saddle giving the art minutes with Annie.
Yeah, so, her child has been sick, and so she's been taking care, so which is great. So, not that the child is sick, but but she's
got to take care of. Yeah. All right. So she's being a great parent. That's exactly what it is. So
that's right.
I want to share my screen real quick. Literally 8 minutes before the broadcast started, I got an email forwarded from Tyler about a user's feedback on the new firmware. That's a universal firmware. It works on both the iXOS 100, EXOS 100, and the Exos 2 GT with PMC8. And so I thought this would be pretty cool to talk about. So universal firmware works on both. It's the thing of how, well, which one do I install and what do I do? He says, I'd like to thank Explore Scientific on the PMC8 new software update. This is an awesome, and it's in the email, it's in bold and larger letters, and I didn't have time to go do that upgrade.
Kind of bold here.
It's kind of bold, but it was more than kind of bold there. He was able to get out for 2 nights, being able to go back and forth between the computer tablet without any hiccups. Fantastic. This is a fantastic update. I've edited this slightly. But so it allows you, previously you had to be either in tablet mode or serial mode, one or the other.
Right.
The new firmware, among a lot of other things, allows you to use your wired connection to use your CDC or whatever, Carts to Seal or planetary program, point the telescope, and then allows you to pick up the tablet and use the tablet like a left, right, up, down to fine tune the alignment, which is much easier to do. Lots of benefits there. The mount update for the stepper motors seems to be working very well. So there's also some tweaking we've done on the management of these stepper motors. So DC motors are just, servo motors are just power on, power off. They just run. The stepper motors, we can control how many micro steps, the size of the micro steps, how much torque is applied, so that if the telescope runs into something, the torque setting is going to kick in. And because it's a magnet system, we control that electromagnet. When the torque overcomes the setting in the electromagnet, then it just lets go. And the magnet goes, okay, I'll let go. Try again, let go. If you do that with a servo motor, that servo motor is going to keep trying to drive and drive and drive, and it'll start tearing the gears up and it'll chew itself to death. So our stepper motors provide significantly more control and management than the standard previously used servo motors. So moving on, he shoots from a Bortle scale 7, which is significantly light polluted. He has 6 garage lights from driveways on other townhomes in the area, and heavy smoke from the Canadian wildfires. I don't know where the customer lives. I even know the customer's last name. He shot with the Exos 100 mount with a Celestron 6N f7 telescope.
Okay.
So
6-inch counting in, yeah.
And which probably is overloading our stated astrophotography, but we know people are running 20, 22, 24 pounds. They manage their balance very, very well and can achieve some great results. Using a Canon T7 as well as an SV Boni, I don't know how you pronounce it, Boni 60 and ZWO 224 guide scope and camera, PhD2, which is guiding, CDC, Carts to Seal. He uses APT, another program for plate solving and lights and darks and flats and biases. A lot of technical information we're not going to get to. If you don't understand it, talk to us or Google it. All right. No filters for 2-minute exposures. So he took 2-minute exposures. Processing was used with Deep Sky Stacker and Photoshop. Everything's working. Thanks. Let everyone know. Great job with the new update. Need more clear skies and less smoke, Michael. So we all pine for clear skies, fewer clouds, and less smoke. So let's see what he got, right? So here's a picture of M13, awesome. 48 minutes, ISO 100. He did 1 stretch. So it's not like he crazily stretched it to achieve anything. Looks like maybe a slight focus problem.
Just redo the flats.
Yeah. And there's some curvature. It's a Newtonian. So there's going to be potentially some curvature that you have to deal with. But if you crop out the outer corners, this becomes a fantastic shot of M13. Not that it's not a fantastic shot now, but cropping will get rid of some of that coma on the corners. So let's see what else he's got. M27, 108 minutes. So remember these two-minute exposures, ISO 800 and one stretch. He's not using any filters. This is just white light 2 minutes, and he used his, darks and biases and things to flatten it out and make things happen. And this is from like I said, a Bortle 7 sky. So let's look at his guide logs. This is a guide log. If you've never looked at it, that blue line and the red line. The blue line is the RA drive. The declination drive is in red. So it shows you how the two different axes motors are having to operate. But this is the impressive thing. We get down here, total arcs RMS, or what is this, is 0.63. So he's getting really good guiding. Tyler and I were talking about it just real quick while we're setting this up. Tyler suspects that it was probably a balance issue, not quite balanced right. But the next night, look what happened. His deck and RA are a lot flatter. The scale is slightly different. No, same scale. The scale's just a little bit different shown, but far less movement in the RA and deck, and the total measure of RMS is 0.28. So significantly better than he got the day before. It maybe was windier. There's all sorts of things that could be happening here. But all things considered, I'm gonna stop sharing now. All things considered, that's quite a interesting pictures and feedback for the mount.
Great testimonial.
It's a great testimonial, all for a mount that you can buy for $500. Okay, now you can find clock drives and camera drivers that are just turning RA, right? Just turn and follow the sky for about the same money. This has go-to capabilities. You can hook a computer up to it. You can use a guide scope controlled with the computer. You can control it with a tablet. A much more significant, opens up a whole new world to you when you can start using go-to as part of your astrophotography. So anyway, that happened 5 minutes, 7 or 8 minutes before the show started. I put that together just real quick. It's great to get things like that from customers who are able to get great things from it. So anyway, that's that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kent.
Yep. Okay.
All right. And we'll transition over here to Cameron. Cameron, did you get any rest at all?
I did. Actually, I rested because I need to have a good night tonight, because we had smoke last night, actually.
I see.
Yeah, so it was not good transparency.
We got smoke here too. I mean, the sky looks brown.
Luckily, it stayed in the upper atmosphere, but that doesn't help for astronomy. But at least for the lungs, it's better. But yeah, then we had some westerlies come in, and now it's the eastern Washington is suffering. Of course, now it's going east. That's where a lot of the fires are. But here across the Cascades on the west coast, luckily we're able to escape a little of that right now. So we're feeling very fortunate. But so that's allowing me to get some imaging in tonight. So should be good tonight.
Great.
And when I see that testimonial that Ken shared, as you know, I'm in the queue for the Exus 2, but I am thinking, well, I probably want to get to Exus 100 as well, so that I can have both, because I can see definitely the Exus 2 will be giving me the extra weight capacity, and I can piggyback and stuff. But it's nice to have a smaller, like I think it was a Caesar is doing an Exus 100, right, on his balcony.
Yeah,
with a
that's
smaller
right. He uses
scope.
small scopes, or he
Yeah.
just puts his digital SLR up on it, you know.
It's
So
really nice because it's fully integrated. Everything's there. You know, it's a really beautiful system. Very compact. You know, like I was saying the other night, sometimes I like to be able to deploy in the front yard because I have a better view of the western sky, and to have an Exus 100, that would make it really useful for a Mac, you know, planetary stuff, to be able to use an Exus 100 for that. But anyhow, that's in the future.
right.
So yeah, but yeah, so I'm ready to start. I can go into Camstronomy now.
It's all you, dude.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Scott. All right, well, we are going to dive into, let me just share my screen here. Let's just, first of all, let's continue from looking at our sky chart here. So in Sky Safari, if you recall where we were last week, we were working our way through, actually we're up here, sorry. We were in Lyra because I'm going from west to east. So we did Hercules a long time ago. We did Ophiuchus, moved down through Sagittarius, through Scutum. Then we jumped up to Lyra, finished that up last week. And now we're going to go back down to Aquila. And Aquila, right on the strip, its axis of, you know, the constellation Aquila is right in line with the Milky Way, very similar to Cygnus. The constellation is very much in line, and because it's on the Milky Way, there's loads of beautiful, rich star fields and planetary nebula. So there's going to be lots of planetary nebula, and we're going to start off in the tail. I guess this is the tail of Aquila, you know, near Scutum. So let's go to 6751, and before we do that, let me just kind of go back to the presentation here. Okay, whoops, I was at the end. Go back here. Okay, here we go. So we've done to date 128 images we went through together exploring, 100 objects. So as of last week, we made our first 100. So we're 1/8 of the way through my best and brightest. Today, we're going to go through many images because I went kind of crazy trying to image planetary nebula at different lengths and stuff like that. Difficult to take planetary nebula pictures with a not a good image scale. So I was playing around with my smartphone and that. So you'll see a lot of repeat images, but we're going to go through that just to kind of show the progression of the objects. We're going to go through 9 objects in Aquila. And here's the location. And then actually today I'll just kind of focus on that. Tonight I didn't have any imaging over the last week. So what I will tell you, continuing from the astrophotography session last Friday, is tonight I'm going to try out my new master darks, master flats, and master bias frames on a larger scale. So I'm hoping I will get some data sets to kind of compare with and without. And so the next time we have a session, maybe as early as this Friday, but definitely in a couple of weeks when Scott's back and we continue with Camstronomy number 13, I'm going to have some more data, and it will be really interesting to see how these master calibration frames improve the imaging capabilities. So with that, we left off in M56. This was the in Lyra globular cluster, an earlier picture from early July. And now we're going to go to 6751. So let's go to 6751 right here. And there we go. It's a magnitude 11.5 planetary nebula. If I zoom in right into the star field, It is 4.6 thousand light years away. So you'll find when, as we're looking through the belt of the Milky Way towards the center, a little off the center, of course, Sagittarius is the quarter they're looking at the core, but you'll see a lot of the planetary nebulae they're in the thousands of light years. As we go through this sampling, it's around 3 to 6 thousand light years away. That's kind of the range. And if we go look at the image, where are we? There we go. So this is from my smartphone back in July, and I blew it out here. I zoomed in, and you can actually see the very bright central star, and a very nice kind of some texture here. Obviously there is a lot of noise and all that, but it's really nice to be able to see a little bit of structure in the planetary with just a smartphone. And I've added this timestamp and visual observation that I did actually almost a year ago, or just over a year ago, 2020, July 11th, and this is the time. So I've added this. This is from my observing list. I started to add this. I have a little extra time, and I think it's ultimately I'm going to have these descriptions, and I'm going to go back and recalibrate them as I'm imaging, so that what you see here is verified with my imaging with the description, and then I'm going to go back and maybe possibly update this description, re-observe it, etc. So the way I first observed it before I had any imaging gear or did any smartphone, I just call it a distinct oval patch. I wasn't able to detect the central star, it looks like, visually, although it looks like from the image, you probably can. So that was rather interesting. But you'll start to see me adding and folding in those in future Camstronomy as I build the catalog. Here's a picture with my imaging, and you can see quite a bit better with my Astro camera. Let me just move this out of the way. And when I zoom into that, you can see, it's interesting to compare this to the smartphone image, because yeah, you can see, maybe the central star barely, but it's interesting to compare the two. You can very clearly see the central star in this picture, but then if you look at here, it's a little bit washed out, a little less structure. Probably it had to do with scene conditions when I was, because these are 30 seconds compared to this with an 8-second exposure. So there's some more work to do to optimize, but it's interesting to contrast those as we try different imaging techniques with different objects. The phantom streak, this one here, I went back to actually this is what prompted me to add my visual observations, because this one here, I was not able to capture with either the smartphone or the dedicated astronomy camera. It's very small. And when I went back to my visual observation, it said fuzzy star with patch. So, and it actually didn't make the cut on best and brightest. One of the things I've done on best and brightest is anything that's a named object, I decided to add it to the list, just because it has obviously some characteristic. So as I get better with my imaging capabilities, I really want to zoom in on this object and really capture. So this is a nice little follow-up project to kind of go through some of these objects that have distinct names that perhaps visually were not that impressive, and initial photographs are not impressive, but it is neat. I want to know why it got that name. I want to take a picture of it.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking at a photograph of it right now, and it looks like this kind of parallelogram type of shape. It's definitely
yes.
a planetary.
Yes.
And
It's got the red and blue green, just like you see in the Ring Nebula or the dumbbell.
It looks like you can see a white dwarf in the center.
Okay.
So that seems to be, well, at least in this Hubble Space Telescope image I'm looking at.
Yeah, let me just see if I can find it here.
Yeah, apparently this is somewhat of a a tough one. It says, although fairly bright, this object appears very small through a typical telescope and was missed by early surveyors of the skies and only spotted in 1882 by Edward Charles Pickering. So there you go.
There you go. So
yeah.
isn't that's a great kind of parallel experience that I've had.
Yeah.
And that's really, thanks for doing that, Scott, because that's exactly the point of this survey is you realize some things are just, they sound cool.
Yeah, you know, right? It's there, right?
You know it's there
in the right area, but
yeah, you do this the plate solve, the visual plate solve, but then it's like, ooh, that's not, I can't see it. You have to be honest, right? And oops, sorry, wrong one. Let's go back here. So now the master imaging view, see the same star field. These two stars are kind of the telltale sign of the visual plate sign, and then you have these three stars here, right here. Same thing here. Quite a bit richer star field, very rich. So one thing about rich star fields and planetaries, they're beautiful if you can see the planetary, but they're very difficult sometimes you can misconstrue, because planetary nebula can be very small, and you can mistakenly, with bad seeing, think that you see the nebula, but you don't. So here, it's definitely by this group of stars here. I'm going to have fun taking an image of that in the future. But for now, I just sharing you what my survey is showing right now, and then we'll come back to it in the future. Next one is 6755, a much easier object if I go back. So we're going up. We did Phantom Streak. Oh yeah, let me look at the, sorry, I just skipped the details. So it is actually, magnitude 11.4, so it definitely would be visual. It would look very stellar. And then distance, yeah, is 5.1 kilo, 5.1 thousand light years away. Let's continue. Next one is 6755. And I'll click on that guy. That open cluster is quite bright, magnitude 7.5. And it's quite large too. So you could probably pick it up with binocs, and it would look pretty good. And if I look at the information there, that would be see 4.6 thousand light years as well. So this part of the spiral arm that's kind of in this region, region of Aquila, is at around the 5,000 light year distance for the grouping of objects. So if we look at that, let me just close that. Actually, you know what? Let me just close my. Yeah, I want to get that faster. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so if you look at the smartphone image of this cluster, actually, not a flat field. Of course, I'd have to do a better job with flats and all, but it's difficult to do flats and that with a smartphone, because every time you mount the smartphone, it's going to be in a different position. So that is something where I think what Maxi did, where he took the camera out of the smartphone and he put it in his image frame. That's the way to go. If you've said this before, Scott, if there's some way that you can take that chip out, take all the advantages of it, and then just put it on your image frame, then you can calibrate and you can do some pretty cool stuff. But right. That's in the future. It's going to come. It's not quite there right now. We have to use off-the-shelf smartphone. But my description was medium density of medium brightness stars. So this made the cut because I love clusters that have, if they're a nice, beautiful sprinkle of different color stars, that's beautiful. But usually clusters tend to be, of course, the same. If there's a different color star, it's because it's superimposed or behind. It's not probably part of the cluster, because obviously the cluster is from the same birthplace, so they're going to have the same main sequence of stellar evolution. But if you look at this one, I like the where you have enough density, so you have kind of the rich background of stars, but then you have a denser area where you can clearly see the cluster. Those are the clusters I called out as something that is worthy of the Camstronomy sky survey. So this is an enjoyable. I think anyone who looks at this one will be nice. And here's what it looks like. The pictures don't do it justice. It's nicer, obviously, visually. But you get the basic idea. This was an earlier picture from June, and you can see the amp glow. I didn't have any flats and all that. And then now let's move on to 6709. So I zoom back out. Now we're up in the northeastern part of Aquila. 6709, and its magnitude 6.7, again quite bright, good binocular object. And yeah, it's a closer cluster, 3.5 thousand light years away. And if we go to the picture, yeah, very nice distinct grouping, nice cluster with strings of blue stars. So visually, I guess I was seeing this string. Yeah, you can see these strings here in the here, and of course visually it will look more pronounced than the image here. This is what it looks like in the with my ASI 294 astro camera, and you can see some nice strings of stars here in little grouping. These are very enjoyable clusters to look at. And it looks like there's even different colors, some yellows and some blues. So 2 groupings. Now we come to my favorite object in Aquila, one of my favorites, 6781. And this is what we were looking at last week, actually, Scott, live.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really good, this is kind of a good benchmark object for anyone kind of starting the night. Check out this in Aquila, 6781. It's a beautiful puff in any size telescope. What you see here is a smartphone image, and you can barely see it. This is actually very close to what it looks like visually. So this is to set expectations. You can clearly see a puff, and the way I call it, nice large round puff. So very non-stellar. So it's very easy to see. You can see some annularity. You can see the ring, but this is nice and subtle. And what's neat is, like I said, even with the smaller telescope, it has a nice rich field of stars, and you can see it against the background. It's very nice. It's like a faint dumbbell nebulae, I guess you could say. Very faint compared, but it's bright enough to give you good surface brightness. So now if we go to the specs of it, see it's 11.6 magnitude, but surprisingly good considering the size, very good and distinct surface brightness. And if we look at the distance, yeah, it's in the pack, 5,000 light years away. And here's, of course, another image that they took. It's nice. Okay, and let's continue. So now I started to take my astro imaging at the end of June, my first picture of it. And you can see the amp flow and all that from the first round. Then I improved, and I got a flatter images, but I still have some noise. And this was taken in July 12th. But you can clearly see, the reason why I included this one is, this is the photo bomb we were talking about last night, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see this more and more. On the average, probably about, at this point in time, so far with my survey, when I stack about 5 to 10 stacks of 10 to 30 seconds, I get about, let's say, 10 to 20% of my image runs have a photo bomb like this, where one of the stacks
I see.
Has that. That gives you, that's the current traffic that's out there right now. Just kind of giving you a readout on what I'm seeing right now.
So it's not like a constellation line on the sky. It's
a streak. Yeah, you got exactly. You'll see a streak go right through.
Yeah.
And and so of course I'll continue to report on this as we go through the survey. But
sure.
As Elon Musk launches more and more Starlinks, I expect to see more of these. In fact, there was one time I saw 2 go through this through the middle. So anyhow, here's my, I think, yeah, that's my latest. This is my latest and greatest, where I still have the bias noise, but pretty good, right? I mean, now you can see what I really like about this picture. Yeah, is look at you can see that the central star is actually quite faint. in the middle, but it has a lot of other stars inside the disk. And I love these, there's so many stars, just right here around this planetary nebula. It's really nice to see. And so some of these are probably like, 16th, 17th magnitude stars, and you can start to see them in superimposed. But I like this thing. You can see this kind of crescent, brighter portion, and you'll see this visually too. So when you look at this object, you'll see it's a little bit brighter on one side than the other. So, okay, 6790. Let's zoom back out here. 6790. Oh, there we go. Now we're in the heart of that. Zoom in here.
I noticed that there's not good or readily available distance information for 6781. Is there a reason for that? Is it hard to measure distance on, you think?
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting that you mentioned. Let's take a look again. Yeah, and what did I do? How come I didn't do that? See your object information. It says it's 5,000 light years here, but to your point, these ones that these planetary nebula that I've noticed that are larger, including like the Ring Nebula. The Ring Nebula apparently is between 1.4 and 5,000 light years away.
1.4 and 5,000. That's a pretty big range.
It's a huge range, exactly, because there's some sort of distortion that happens in measuring the spectrum and the redshift because of the speed of the wave front. I think you can imagine, right? You have this shell of gas that's moving at a certain distance, certain speed, and made out of certain chemicals that kind of throw off the spectra of the star. So you kind of like, okay, well, so I've noticed some planetary nebula you get a number, but to your point, yeah, many planetary nebula I've noticed so far. I've noticed the larger ones. They tend to not have a distance, or they have a range, which is interesting. But of course, more to follow. But good observation, Scott. And 6790. This is quite bright, magnitude 10.7, and its distance 4.2 thousand years away. Okay, very bright. It looks like very stellar here. Bright star with surrounding glow. So basically, it looks like a fuzzy star visually. It's very small. And then this is my image, and as you can see, both of these images, both the smartphone image here and the astro image here. You can see barely that it's non-stellar, but that could be mistaken for just the blowing out of the star from the exposure. And here's another image, a better image that I took on just a couple weeks ago, and you can see that's where it is. But I need a higher resolution. I need a better image scale to be able to really glean it out to get that. So this is a nice part, is I'm doing kind of the first pass, and then it made the visual cut because clearly visually I can see it. Because when you're visual, you can see the airy disk, of course. You can zoom right in, go like to 200 power, 300 power, and then really clearly see it's a fuzzy star. But you can't do that easily with imaging. So you have to kind of choose your scale, and that's what I'm going to be doing in the future. Putting some Barlows on and stuff. Let's move on to Collinder 401. Go back. Now we're going back to clusters again. 401 is the down here in the wing of Aquila. It's right by a bright star, and it's very small, as you can see. Very, very small. Magnitude 7, so it's quite bright. But let's see the distance.
That's a catalog I'd not heard of before. It says that it's a catalog of 471 open clusters. So a Swedish astronomer, Per Collinder, published in 1931.
Yes. So I've noticed these Collinder objects. They tend to be either really big or really small. They're like so that is interesting, Scott. Yeah. So it's another catalog. But here you can see they don't have, for some reason, they don't have a distance on this one. But it's right beside this bright star. And the way you see it, you can barely see it. There's a little grouping of stars, nice speckling of faint stars around bright stars. And that's exactly, so visually, let's go to the, you can see this little grouping of stars. And actually, this is a nice visual object because you have a very clear bright star, but then you see those faint stars in a grouping beside it. It's quite nice, quite nice. But in general, taking images of clusters is a difficult thing to kind of capture the feeling when you visually see it. So highly recommended, you know, good binocular objects, but this is too small for binocular, but good telescope object to see visually, and very pleasing that way. Let's move to 6807. We're moving back up. 6807, right in the heart of Aquila. Right, planetary nebula. Magnitude 12.4, sorry, 12.2. So it's fainter than the other ones. However, let's take a look at it. All right, yeah, they don't have, here's the one that doesn't have any distance. So much for my theory about the small planetary nebula is it just in general. So let's go to see what it looks like visually. Oops.
This is a nice comment. Jeff Y says, another benefit of Cam's presentations is that I'm learning how to describe what I see better.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, you actually, that's a good point. I want to say something to that. Is as I was writing my observations, I became better at it myself. I was realizing there were certain terminologies I was using, and it's kind of like you're visually sketching, right? I wasn't sketching on a piece of paper, but, and by the way, I want to, you were mentioned earlier, thanks a lot, great introduction, I really appreciate it, Scott. My inspiration actually was people like David Eicher and Sue French from Sky Telescope, David Eicher from those people, those awesome astronomers. They did a visual sketching. They would go constellation by constellation, and I said, oh, it wasn't like I said I want to do that. It was like I always would like just drink up that anytime, and you know, the next month's magazine came out, I would look at that and I would study that section. I would be like, oh, I would love it. And I loved it, especially when they were talking about different sizes of apertures that they would look, observe their descriptions. So that kind of rubbed off on me, and now I kind of, I guess you could say mentally, I was able to make better and better descriptions, and I want to continue that. So thanks, Jeff. That's what I'm going for. So so this one here has a central star with a haze near 3 stars of the same brightness. Okay, so if I look at, this is the smartphone image, and you can't see much here. Actually, let's see the specs. This is 6807. So we go back here. Yeah, it doesn't have a distance, and it's pretty faint. But if we look, this is where the object is. So you can see clearly from visual plate solve, it's definitely here. This was a better image on the 28th, but still an earlier image. And then I took another one on the 19th, and just to confirm, so you got this big bright star here. As you can see, I got my flats and my darks in a good shape. So this is the best contrast I can, but it's still too small. And as you can see from the description back here, there's a haze. So basically, we go back, oops, sorry, we go back here. If I zoom in, so I guess the 3 stars I was seeing were probably these 3 here, and it was right. You can see that's where the nebula is, but it needs more. It definitely needs more Barlow magnification to get the image scale right on. Okay, 6804. This is the last object for today. If I zoom back out, and it's a really good one too. It's in line with 6781. So as you go from Altair, if you're star hopping, just you can use these two are really good. These are the best planetary nebula in Aquila. So 6804 is actually really good. If I click on it, magnitude 12.2, which is interesting. but if I look at the specs, yeah, it's in the pack, 4.8 thousand light years away. But when you take, right now visually, I said, oops, a nice round gray puff around central star. So you don't see much. This is a smartphone image, and you can see I zoomed in, not very good, very patchy, but there's a little bit of a haze here. You can actually see it. This is an interesting thing. Even though I blew it up here, you can see the central star, but here you can actually see it better with kind of averted vision type of view. It's a kind of a hazy patch. But then if we take another picture, this is a little bit better on the 7th. Let's move this out of the way. Just there we go. You can clearly see the central star, and you can see this hazy little bit of patch. This is a better view, what it would look like visually. You can see the patch above this string of stars.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another image on the, when I got my astro imaging. Same, you can see this characteristic string of stars and then some patchiness there. But this is my latest picture. This is actually,
oh wow,
this is pretty darn good. And you can see, because of the flats and everything, you have a beautiful rich star field. And I was able to eke out some neat structure out of this guy. And you can see an inner ring. You can clearly see the central star. You can see and you can see the outer ring, which is really cool. And visually, I can tell you, and this is a smartphone image to compare. So you can see the visual plate solved, right? These 2 stars, that 3 stars, that's exactly where it is. And you can, when you see this image and you see this, now you can start to see the inner ring a little bit here. So I would say visually, it's somewhere between this and this. You're not going to see the outer ring visually, but you're going to see this inner ring for sure, but not as distinct as a distinct line here. You're going to see, but it's very, very pleasing visually. So I'm very happy to eke out this picture here with my imaging.
Very nice photograph. I'm looking at other astrophotographic examples of this, and yours is right up there. I mean, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really cool. And that's the whole idea. Is I want to be able to show a kind of a broad spectrum of different qualities and different levels to kind of, give everyone some encouragement as well. So when they do their own images, they can be happy, with their own level and challenging yourself, because, and then you surprise yourself. Hey, that's a pretty good image. That's nice to hear, Scott. I wasn't like comparing. I didn't have any reference. I'm doing everything from the bottom up, where I'm doing everything just visually, taking my own images, and then later on I compare, right? Like you've seen me compare the Ring Nebula with a Hubble shot or whatever. But thanks. That's really cool. I mean, I was happy with this one. That's cool.
Well, I just posted a link to astrophotographer Sid Leach, who did an image of 6804 at Mount Lemmon with a 24-inch RCOS. And you compare your image to that one, and you see, I mean, amazingly much of the same structure and everything. So,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Well, and that's, let's face it. I mean, you talk to all the gurus, right? Like Adam Block and these Jason Gonzal, and Astor, Molly, or
Molly Wakeling,
yeah, Molly Wakeling, all. You want to, on one hand, you want to preserve the scientific, the kind of the direct measurement of the light, but in the end, you have to think, what are you trying to do? And what I'm after from a kind of an EAA and an imaging perspective is, like you say, the structure, to be able to eke out these types of, you can almost see it's a pentagon shape. You can see some, this is like kind of straight lines here, and then see some spikes. I love to be able to eke out and describe and kind of take in the detailed structure. That's really what gives me the kicks. I mean, I can't wait until, by this winter time, I'm going to have my 8080 and I'm going to have my EXOS-2, okay,
Right.
and I'm gonna take a picture of the Horsehead Nebula, okay,
Awesome.
and that is been my, I can't wait. I've never done it. I've never seen it even visually, and I've seen millions of pictures, of course, but I can't wait to be able to do that myself. So look for that, in one of our winter sessions coming up here. So
Right.
it's going to be, but yeah, I just love it, kind of exploring the structure of these. It's wonderful. Anyhow, so that's my
That's
Camstronomy
wonderful.
this
Thank
week.
you.
So
Thank you
thanks
very
a lot.
much.
You bet.
Awesome. Well, we have more programming tomorrow with focus on astrophotography. That's our Friday show. And then we are going to be not on the air for about a week, okay, as I take some days off here. But we will return the week after with Global Star Party and our whole lineup of programs. So, we look forward to visiting you online at that time, and maybe you guys get some clear skies and cut through some of this smoke that's been plaguing North America. So, but until that time, we will see you later. And do as my friend Jack Horkheimer always used to tell everybody to do, is to keep looking up. So take care. Cameron, thanks again. And we'll see you in about a week. Take care.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Scott. Thanks.
Bye-bye.